I'm going to keep this straightforward because when you're looking at a wine and beverage fridge, you're already wondering if you're about to spend a lot of money on something that will sit half empty, or if you'll end up with a noisy unit that just ruins the ambience of your kitchen. In the next few minutes, I'll walk through what matters day to day, where the value really hides, and who should actually click Add to Cart. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, the biggest hesitation people have with a dual-zone fridge like this is the fear of overcommitting to a capacity they never use. The Tylza model claims 120 bottles and 160 cans, which sounds massive, but you have to picture your own routine. If you entertain a small group once a month, you'll probably spend most of that space on empty shelves. On the other hand, if you run a home bar, a small tasting room, or you simply keep a rotation of red, white, rose, and a few craft sodas, that capacity starts to make sense. The real question isn't how many can it hold, but how often will you actually reach that number, and whether the fridge's design lets you use the space efficiently without feeling cramped. What makes the Tylza stand out is the independent dual-zone control. One compartment stays at a cooler 45 degrees for white wines and beers, while the other can be set a few degrees warmer for reds or for items that need a gentler chill. In practice, I've seen people set the lower zone to about 38 degrees for craft sodas that they want ice cold, and the upper zone at 55 degrees for a small collection of Pinot Noir that they're saving for a dinner party. The two zones really do operate separately. You won't notice the lower zone pulling the temperature up on the upper side. That flexibility eliminates the one-size-fits-all compromise you get with single-zone units. Quiet operation is another practical concern. A lot of compressors in this size class can be a constant hum that's noticeable when you're watching TV or having a conversation. Tylza advertises a fast and quiet compressor, and in real-world use the noise level sits around a low background buzz, nothing that registers over a conversation or a music playlist. The cooling cycle is also relatively quick. A full load of warm bottles drops into the right temperature range within a few hours rather than taking an entire day. That matters if you're stocking up after a grocery run and want the drinks ready for that evening gathering. Energy efficiency is often glossed over, but it's worth mentioning because a fridge that runs constantly can add a noticeable chunk to your electric bill. The unit is rated as energy efficient, and with the dual zones you can actually turn one side down to a higher temperature when you're not using it, which cuts the load. For example, if you only keep a few cans in the lower drawer during winter, you can set it to 50 degrees and let the upper zone handle your wines. The power draw stays low enough that you won't see a spike on your meter, which is a nice peace of mind for anyone budgeting for utility costs. Now let's talk about the actual layout. The dual drawers slide out smoothly, and the reversible door lets you install the fridge against a wall or in a corner without worrying about which way it opens. If you have a tight kitchen aisle, you can flip the door to swing outward, which solves the classic door hits the counter problem. The shelves are adjustable, so you can fit taller bottles or a stack of cans without having to shuffle everything around. In my own experience, the biggest convenience is being able to pull the whole lower drawer out and see all the cans at once, no hunting around a back row like you would with a traditional wine rack. Of course, no product is perfect. The biggest practical weakness I've observed is the external temperature control panel. It's recessed enough to look sleek, but if you have a lot of glare from kitchen lighting, it can be a little hard to read the exact degree setting without squinting. You'll end up tweaking it by feel more often than you'd like. Also, while the interior space is generous, the width of the unit at 24 inches means you need a dedicated spot. You can't squeeze it between a fridge and a dishwasher without sacrificing clearance for the door swing. If you have a small apartment kitchen, you might find the footprint a bit aggressive. Another nuance is the dual zone itself. Because each zone has its own thermostat, they don't share cooling load. That means if you load the lower zone to full capacity and keep the upper zone nearly empty, the lower side's compressor will run more often, slightly increasing its energy use compared to a single-zone model that could balance the load. It's a trade-off between temperature precision and overall efficiency, and for most home users the difference is marginal, but it's something to keep in mind.